Doing a live lecture on this very topic, and I am extremely grateful for PCGT to invite me again. I will be chairing this year's Maharashtra Legislative Assembly, which is Maharashtra Vidhan Sabha, and this session is regarding Indian polity and government. Last year, I had given a live on the same topic, but this year I am going to repeat a summary of what I talked about last year. And this year there is going to be an addition to what I talked last year. So the last year's video is available on YouTube. That time I had a beard. So this time, it will be India's polity and governance part 2. So it won't be a repetition of last year's lectures. We will take a 10-15 minute summary of what I talked last time, but this time it will be an addition. All right. So Indian polity and Indian governance essentially came into existence on 26th January 1950, on the date where the whole constitution came into effect. Constitution of India, and a lot of people don't know this, came into effect part by part. Some of the provisos were effected just after 26th November 1949. And some of them were kept for enforcement on the Republic Day, which was the Purna Swarajya Divas, which was celebrated from 1930, and that's why it was decided that we will celebrate our Republic Day on 26th January. So officially 26th January can be said as the birth of Indian polity and governance. But did Indian Constitution as a document or Indian polity and governance as a whole system, it's a humongous system. It employs thousands of people. It employs lakhs of people. Did this system of governance come into effect just from on 26th January or 26th November 1949? Does it have a history? It does have a very long history. It has a history as old officially as 150 years. That's Anglo-Saxon way of administering a country. Before that, it was a Mughal way of governing a country, and before that, it was the Hindu way of governing a country. And why am I calling Hindu way? And I'll clarify that before, because in Hindu religion there are two shastras. One is Dharma Shastra, which is the religious branch of the religion, and second is Danda Shastra. Danda Shastra is basically all the Indian or Hindu laws by which marriage, partition, inheritance, whole governing system, taxation, everything is governed by Danda Shastra. This division of source is mentioned in Chanakya's Arthashastra also. It is mentioned in British commentaries of Hindu law, where they have divided into two systems of inheritance, which is Dayabhaga and Mitakshara, and that is not our topic today, but I am saying that there have been three major parts of how India was administered. We are talking about administrative law, we are talking about political law, which is a macro form of law. Macro and micro don't apply to politics, so to say, but this is something which governs the whole nation. This is which constitutes the whole administrative system, gives legitimacy to the whole administrative system. So it officially started in an Anglo-Saxon way as back as 1773, when British in the presidency of Calcutta started or gave effect to something called Regulation Act 1773. It was followed by an amendment to the Regulation Act in 1781. Then 1784 it's Pitt's India Act. 1784, after that 1793 there was the first Charter Act. What is Charter Act? Basically the Crown used to issue a license of sorts to the East India Company, and that license, or what was then called as the charter, was in effect for 20 years. Okay, so after every 20 years, East India Company, which was ruling India then, had to take a license or a permission from the Crown to govern it further, with some changes in the terms of agreements and contracts. So in 1793, something to the effect of Charter Act came into existence, and after every 3 years, I think 20 years, then it was 1813, 1833's Charter Act. After 1833's Charter Act, it was 1853's Charter Act. After 1853's Charter Act, it was followed by 1857's First War of Independence. First War of Independence was a resultant of British realizing that we now cannot give the whole affairs of British India into to a commercial company. So the British Crown and then the British Sovereign Parliament took over all the administrative powers of the East India Company, officially dissolved the East India Company, and in 1860 the Act of Good Governance of India. I am not joking when I call good governance. Good governance is a term not brought after 2014, but good governance is a term which existed as long or as back as 1860. So the act was officially named as Good Governance Act of India 1860. 1860, after that 1861, Bombay High Court came into existence. All the three presidency courts came into existence. Then came different very important acts, IPC, then which was framed by Macaulay, then Indian Contracts Act. Of all of this came after 1860, when British Parliament started to make laws for India. Then came 1860 के बाद it came up at 1890, which was 30 years के बाद 10 साल के बाद they used to give improvements, but 1891 or 1899, I don't remember the exact date, of the Government of India Act. So Good Governance of India Act was followed by a series of Government of India Acts. So you only hear about Government of India Act 1935, but Government of India Act started just after 1860, because now it was not company rule, it was British Raj which was ruling India. So 1860s के बाद there is a series of Government of India Act. 1909 Government of India Act is very famous, which is called as Minto-Morley Reforms. After that, 1919 is Montagu-Chelmsford Reforms. So what are these names? Minto-Morley. Minto was the Secretary General of India then, and Morley was the Viceroy of India. It was then called Governor General. उसके बाद titles change हुए, but Viceroy of India. So Minto was the Secretary for India, and Morley was the Viceroy of India. Then Montagu-Chelmsford, same pattern. After 1919, a commission was formed to review laws of India and give a 1929 Government of India Act, which did not happen because the commission was headed by someone called Mr. Simon, John Simon. And then the whole movement of Simon go back, Lala Lajpat Rai's death, which followed. And the resultant act was Motilal Nehru's drafted constitution, Purna Swaraj Divas of 1930. Everything happened in between. And then in 1935, the Government of India Act 1935 came into existence. After Government of India Act, various commissions came to India. There was Cabinet Commission, Cabinet Plan. There was Mountbatten Plan. Mountbatten Plan was the last plan. So different plans came to India. I won't be elaborating on those plans because those are not very important for Indian polity and governance. They are very important when it comes to Indian history or modern Indian history. Right now, we are very much concerned with Indian polity and governance. So this is the review of all historical instances which gave a background to what Indian constitution is right now. Why? Now we'll go back again in 1773. वो थोड़ा सा आगे पीछे करना पड़ेगा हमको, because to understand what happened from 1773. 1773, under, and that time it was called the Governor General of Bengal, not even India. So the Governor General of Bengal at that time, who was Robert Clive, or then it was changed, he had the executive authority as well, the legislative authority as well, and the judicial authority as well till 1773, till Regulation Act. So Regulation Act made a legislative body of 3 members other than the Governor General of Bengal. Then I think Governor General's title was changed to Governor General of India. Supreme Court was established by Pitt's India Act in 1784. So all of this division of power started in 1773. This division of power started from 1773, 1784, then 1791. वो Charters Act जो पढ़ते गए 30 सालों के बाद. So everything was followed by these Charter Acts. All right. Now what happened after these 20 years? I think 1793 का चार्टर एक्ट था. then 1813 का है, 1833 का है. So after every 20 years, Charter Act came, and it actually devolutionized power between different bodies of the governance. So division of power as a principle of Indian governance started evolving way back from 1773. So that is the first principle we are going to talk about Indian polity and governance, that is division of power, which evolved from 1773. Then it came to 1860. 1860 say again the Viceroy got all the power. From again the Bombay High Court and Presidency Courts were made, and again devolution of power started and division of power started. However, Viceroy's Council had the major executive as well as legislative power almost until 1935. So we are talking about division of power here. There was no real division of power then, and there is no real division of power now also. So post 1935, 1950, now we'll talk about the first principle of this lecture, which is division of power. India does not have division of power in true sense, and there is nothing to be ashamed of. That is how the constitution makers intended it to be, because three branches of the government: the judiciary, the legislative, and the executive. Now the executive should be separate, the legislative should be separate, and the judiciary should be separate. MPs should not be judges in their own cause. Executive should not make laws. The judiciary should not implement laws. But if we see today's picture, everyone is doing everything, because almost every executive order, everything passed by even Gram Panchayat in a village directly goes to Supreme Court under the provision of 136. आजकल सबको Supreme Court भागने की इतनी ज्यादा घाई हो गई है कि we can't imagine. So everything is going to Supreme Court. So Supreme Court is the provision in Indian Parliament is that any bill is either introduced in either of the House, Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, then it's discussed there in form of 3 readings. Then it is passed there. Then it goes to the second House. Then it all the 3 readings happen again. Either it goes to some committee in all these 2 houses, and then after it's passed by both the houses, with the exception of it being a money bill, it goes to the president. The president gives its assent, and then the bill is called law. However, because of the enormous amount of PILs and petitions filed in the Supreme Court, now even after president's assent, Supreme Court's assent has also become mandatory for a law to be called law or a law to be called constitution. Because the moment these days, even people don't even wait to for the law to be given assent by the president or even the law to be passed by the government, let alone say becoming an act. People directly file anticipatory PIs that this act might have some extreme consequences. So this apprehensionist kind of policies of citizens awareness are, I mean, extremely shaking to the core of democracy. People who do it, people who file anticipatory petitions and PIL, think that they are the saviors of democracy. One message from this live is you are not. So going on to the separation of power. Separation of power did not happen in real sense in the original constitution, because the original constitution envisages that executive should be from the legislature itself. What does this sentence mean, that executive should be from the legislature? That the Prime Minister and his council should be elected members of either Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha to be held, occupy a seat in the executive. And there is a 6 month, it does not stop here saying that, you have to be, you can or you cannot be a part of legislature to be a part of the executive. It mandates that every minister who forms a part of the Union Government of India, which is the executive body, has to be chosen as a member of parliament within 6 months of him being appointed or him taking oath of the ministership in either of the houses. So for example, I'll give you one example, because I'm going about provisions, but example makes a life very lively. Subramanyam Jaishankar, who is the foreign minister of India right now, is a member of Rajya Sabha. He is not a politician. He is a foreign minister, minister of external affairs. He was made the minister of external affairs. He took oath and then was inducted within 6 months into Rajya Sabha. So he is a part. Does he have voting rights? He does. Does he have all the rights which other member of parliaments enjoy? He does enjoy every right which a MP enjoys because he is a MP first, minister second. The chronology, आप chronology समझे, the chronology might be a little here and there, but with respect to his appointment, he is recognized an MP of Rajya Sabha first, and because MP of Rajya Sabha can't be shifted to Lok Sabha and then to Rajya Sabha again, back and forth, right? But his portfolios in executive can be changed overnight. Today he can be a minister of external affairs, tomorrow he can be minister of finance, day after tomorrow minister of commerce. Uske baad, like Suresh Prabhu, he can be sent as Sherpa to the G20 summit. So executive can be very flexible in its appointment, but so a person first is always recognized as a member of parliament. So division of power mein India does not have any real division of power. Members of the executive must, I'm using the word must, not shall, not might, must be the part of legislature. That is the first principle of Indian polity and governance, which is division of power. Now, under division of power, we'll talk about the powers of particular mechanisms or polity of governance. What does executive say? What does judiciary say? What does legislature say? And what are their respective duties and the provisions? So, Chapter 4 is Directive Principles of State Policy. Chapter 4A is Fundamental Duties, and Chapter 5 is Union Government of India. उसमें क्या आता है? First President, then Vice President, then Prime Minister, then Council of Ministers, then Lok Sabha, then comes Attorney General of India, and then the Supreme Court of India. Then we close the Union Government. Then we go to Part 6 or Part 7, I don't remember correctly. We start with the Governor, which is the head of the state, who was, I think, deflighted from, if that is a word. He was not allowed to fly in recent times in Maharashtra. वो अलग ही है. But then it starts with governor. There is no vice governor, so it then directly goes to chief minister and his council or cabinet. Then it goes to Vidhan Sabha or the legislative assembly. If there is a Vidhan Parishad, then it goes to Vidhan Parishad. Then the Advocate General, and from 222 something or 223 High Court start होता है. High Court के बाद we go to finance related topics in Indian Constitution. So ऐसा अच्छे से ड्राफ्ट किया गया है. Supreme Court is somewhere else, Attorney General of India is somewhere else. ऐसा नहीं, it's in an order of ये. So this is the order. So what are the particular duties? So the first primary, and again legislative को पहले you see. The arrangement in the Indian Constitution is not by throwing a dice. कि वो दो dice होते हैं and then you throw the dice and then okay, legislative को हम पहले preference देंगे. No. Why is the executive given the preference? Because in executive, two people, and the two most important people occupy the position of power in India. The first is head of the state and the second is head of the government. In US polity and governance, both seats are the same and they are the President of United States, POTUS. In India, the head of the state and the first person, first lady and first man जो बोलते हैं, the first man in India is the President of India, currently Ramnath Kovind. So there was a meme which was circulating during US elections, whatever happened in US, don't forget that the President of India is Ramnath Kovind. People had forgotten about, India does have a president in recent times. But वो joke छोड़ के आगे. So the president has been given a primary position in Indian. It starts at Article 52. So Article 52 is the President of India, then Vice President. तो executive का काम क्या है? Executive's work is to implement policies. How does executive implement policies? There are 3 levels of executives in India. The first level is the rubber stamp or nominal heads, which is the president and the vice president. He assumes the duty, the president assumes the duty of person who signs everything, and every law in India, every executive order in India goes by the name not of prime minister but the president, because he is treated like a quasi monarch who is elected democratically. Quasi monarch. See, his seal, his name, his title goes first, even if everything behind the scenes is done by the prime minister. Alright? So he executes. So that's the first nominal head level. The second goes to the elected heads or the council of ministers, which is headed by the prime minister, Panta Pradhan or Pradhan Mantri. Pradhan Mantri and all his cabinet have to hold different ministries. Now, are ministries, assigned, or are they defined under Indian Constitution? No. The concept of ministries is borrowed from the British Parliament, and the concept of ministries finds some reference in the Schedule 7 of the Indian Constitution, which is the lists, the union list, the concurrent list, and the state list. So, there are 38 ministries in union government. All the 38 ministries have the power accumulated from the two lists, which is union list and the concurrent list. I'll elaborate on the lists basically. Lists are basically different departments and different sectors on which the union government or the state government or both the governments have the power to make laws. That's the 7th schedule of Indian Constitution. First schedule territories होता है वो 12 schedule I think 12 schedule है. तो 7th schedule में there are 3 lists which are given. The first list is union list, second is state list, and third is the concurrent list. Second और third में कुछ मेरा confusion हो सकता है, but first is union list definitely. So union list powers are consolidated into these 38 ministries. These 38 ministries are run by elected people who are either a part of Rajya Sabha or Lok Sabha, and below that are the bureaucracy or bureaucrats, which are called the secretaries. Secretaries may be there are hierarchy. There is a principal secretary to the prime minister, which was the first Nripendra Kumar. I think today is PK Mishra. So there is principal secretary to the prime minister. I think matching his profile and portfolio is the cabinet secretary of India. The people who are aspiring to be civil servants, I will let you know that principal secretary to the prime minister and cabinet secretary are the highest civil posts you can enjoy in your life. So if you are aiming to crack UPSC, and you, by God's grace, you will crack UPSC, then aspire to be the cabinet secretary of India, who presides over cabinet meetings and who decides agenda and implements all the policy. Every ministry has its secretaries, then joint secretaries, additional secretaries. In Maharashtra, we have a system where the title of additional secretary is called Upper Adhikari or Sachiv, Upper Sachiv, Upper Jilladhikari. Upper is not the English upper. Upper is a Marathi upper. Konkan is called Upperanta. Why it is called Upperanta? Because it's the additional land to the state of Maharashtra, or the geographically, it's an additional land. Even topographically, it has been emerged from the sea. So it's called Upperanta. From that etymology, upper means additional. So people in Maharashtra who give MPSC confuse that upper Jilladhikari is basically above to the CEO of the district. It's additional secretary. So additional secretaries are there. Then below them, joint secretaries are there. Secretary of a ministry is the highest bureaucratic head of the government. So this is the third layer or the bureaucratic system. They coordinate with the central government employees. This is the structure of executive. What is the work of executive? All the laws passed in by the government have to be implemented by this system. I'll give you one law. MSP का जो law अभी बना है, which is MSP and Mandi and everything, all the 3 farm laws which are much debated. It's not actually debated. Farm laws are very rarely debated in today's all political discourse. What is debated is whether you like BJP or not, or the present establishment, because clause by clause discussion हो ही नहीं रहा है in any political discourse whatsoever. But let's take the example of farm bills. Now farm bills have to be executed. What does that mean? So if government says, or government in law says that government will achieve maximum procurement, then the farm agricultural ministry ensures that procurement process, maintenance of the warehouses, funds given to the farmers in return of procurement, deciding the rate of the procurement, that is not done by agricultural ministry, that is done by cabinet committee on economic affairs, CCEA करके cabinet committee है. There are different cabinet committees also. We'll go to that in legislature part. Executive में भी होता है. It's quasi legislative, quasi executive. So cabinet committee on economic affairs decides the rates of MSPs and procurements for Kharif Rabi crops. It's implemented by the central ministry. Okay, so this is the work and the job of the executive. Now we go to the legislature. Legislature in India starts somewhere after the article 72. So 72 is prime minister, उसके बाद थोड़ा सा legislature होता है. 110 is money bill, 112 I think 110 is money bill or 112 is annual financial account, which we in daily usage call as budget. So now what is the structure of legislature? Union government of India has a bicameral legislature. People mistakenly say that India has a bicameral legislature. No. Indian state governments may or may not have bicameral legislatures, but Union government of India definitely has a bicameral legislature. Now in bicameral legislature, there is an upper house and there is a lower house. The lower house is called Lok Sabha and the upper house is called Rajya Sabha. 250 members of Rajya Sabha and 45 members of Lok Sabha, something plus or minus. Numbers में गलती कर सकता हूँ, but approximately इतने members है. Please comment if you know the members of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Now, Lok Sabha is directly elect. People who sit in Lok Sabha are directly elected members of Parliament. What does that mean? That they contest elections and they win and they come to Lok Sabha, constituency wise. What is Rajya Sabha? In Schedule 4 of the Indian Constitution, every state government has been given a right with respect to some members or some numbers, that how many people can you nominate from the state government to the union government's upper house. So out of 250, some are nominated seats, some are Anglo-Indian seats. Now Anglo-Indian का provision निकाल दिया है. But under Schedule 4 of the Indian Constitution, the distribution of the remaining seats of Rajya Sabha is given. How many states can nominate what number of members of parliament in Rajya Sabha. Now Rajya Sabha's common allegation is कि जो लोग election contest करके आ नहीं सकते, they have been given a seat in Rajya Sabha. And that's true too. If you see members of Rajya Sabha today, you can find that these things are partially true and partially not. Okay, that is the structure of upper house. Lower house, I think 500 plus members. तो घमासान चर्चा होती है, टाइम भी ज्यादा लगता है. And what is the now both the houses enjoy equal powers? They don't enjoy equal powers. The Lok Sabha, the people, and this is a sign of democracy actually. Democracy, murder and everything is the sham hai. But the true sign of democracy is when people who have been elected directly by the government, by the people, should have more power. So what more powers do these Lok Sabha MPs have? Do they enjoy some bigger houses, larger houses than Rajya Sabha MPs? Do they enjoy ministries? Only Lok Sabha MPs are given ministries? No. The more important, everything, वो बंगला, गाड़ी, ये सब छोड़ के इससे ज्यादा एक strong power दी है to Lok Sabha. That is, only Lok Sabha can pass money bills and the budget. So Rajya Sabha's assent is not at all necessary to pass money bill or budget in India. So if you have strength in Lok Sabha, you can directly pass any money bill. Money bill is defined under 110 or 112 of the Indian Constitution. I have not been thorough with Indian Constitution for past couple of months because I have been practicing in lower courts. So I am more familiar. I have become more familiar to civil laws, and Constitution has been on little backtrack. I apologize for that mistakes which I am making, but थोड़ा समझ लो. Last time संभाल लिया, इस time पे संभाल लोगे. तो 110 और 112 प्रोविजन में मनी बिल का प्रोविजन दिया है. In money bill, only Lok Sabha MPs can give their accent. Rajya Sabha MPs have 14 days time, discuss it, don't discuss it. After 14 years, it is deemed to be passed to go to president's assent. Now, लोकसभा में थोड़ा इंट्रिकेसी मैं अभी नहीं लूंगा एक्चुअली, वो प्रेसिडेंट एसेंट कब लगता है. प्रायर टू अ बिल टू बी पास्ड इन लोकसभा, प्रेसिडेंट एसेंट is required in some types of bills. So I won't be completely going into that amount of details. I'll give you some reference books in the end, only one reference book actually, which I have been using for so many, okay, I mean, books मैं use नहीं करता, एक दो ही books है जो मैं use करता हूँ, ठीक है. Now we'll go to judiciary. Now, in judiciary, our article 124, there shall be a Supreme Court of India. Now in recent days, a company called Twitter has been becoming a judge of their own cause. That we only can interpret Indian laws and apply them. That's not Twitter's time work. So it's Supreme Court's work, or any High Court's also work job to adjudicate on interpretation of law. Now, executive in India implements the laws, but executive in India also introduces the laws. This is the dual duty of executive. Okay, it comes to legislature. Legislature makes and passes the law. Okay. Now, when legislature makes and passes the law, it comes to judiciary, and nowadays everything comes to judiciary. Matlab, if and this is a joke, if tomorrow finance minister makes an order of her own car, उसकी जो सरकारी गाड़ी होती है उनकी, then उनके गाड़ी का अगर विंड पेन बदलना है, and she makes an order of giving so and so tender to so and so कॉन्ट्रैक्टर डिसाइड नहीं होता. सो टेंडर अनाउंस किया है कि फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर की 2-3 जो गाड़ियां होती है कैवलकेड में, उसके विंडो पेन बदलने हैं. बिकॉज माइट द फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर माइट हैव विजिटेड वेस्ट बंगाल, तो वो कांच वाच टूट सकता है पत्थरबाजी होके. सो शी गिव्स अ टेंडर टू चेंज हर विंडो पेन्स. नाउ दिस टेंडर गोज टू अनफॉर्चुनेटली some contractor, some civil contractor in Delhi, whose surname happens to be either Adani or Ambani. And then people get furious, crony capitalism, and go to Supreme Court of India. So even such small things these days are challenged in the Supreme Court of India. Supreme Court of India should be a final interpreter of two kinds of laws: statutory laws and the Constitution of India. इसके आगे सुप्रीम कोर्ट का काम ही नहीं होना चाहिए. देयर इज अ डिबेट गोइंग ऑन दैट देयर शुड बी अ हाईएस्ट अपीलेट कोर्ट व्हिच शुड नॉट बी सुप्रीम कोर्ट ऑफ इंडिया. सो सुप्रीम कोर्ट विल सिट ओनली ऑन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल मैटर्स and SLPs, which is a very unique situation in law, but everything appellate will go to a different court. That is not feasible right now, but that is a discussion going on. So Supreme Court's work is only to interpret laws. To what is Supreme Court doing today? I am a final year student of law. Okay, because of these comments, I might also not get my sanad, but I am voicing my very frank opinions on Supreme Court. What is Supreme Court doing today? Even CJ Ranjan Gogoi gave his opinion on how Supreme Court is not doing its job. So I am just taking inspiration from an ex-CJ or many ex-judges also, including Mr. Markandeya Kajju. So Hari Om. That Supreme Court is now today implementing NRC. Supreme Court is doing all sorts of job it should not. Okay. Supreme Court is meddling in international arbitration also. Supreme Court is stopping arbitration and some other bench is giving permission to arbitration. So Supreme Court is doing all kinds of, jobs which it should not. Now PIL लोग mention कर रहे हैं कि PIL. See, public interest litigation has now, you have this, 12 standard essays that is something bane or boon. ठीक है, तो PIL पे ऐसा ही अब ऐसे लिखना चाहिए कि whether PIL is a bane or boon, because every cause today is public interest. See, two trends in India, वो TikTok पे और Instagram पे trends होते हैं, so India में भी अब trend चल रहा है. Everyone today gets up and says I am an activist. और वो Twitter क्या है? How do you become activist? Is just mention that in your Twitter or Instagram profile. You automatic हो गए तुम activist. बस कुछ बोलने की जरूरत नहीं. You might be a commission agent. You might have 80 crores of property in Mumbai, Delhi, petrol pumps ownership, but you are farm leader. Because Twitter बोल रहा है, Twitter जैसा इतना legitimate source बोल रहा है, you must be. So everyone today is becoming self-proclaimed activist, waking up and क्योंकि खुद का कुछ commercial interest hamper हो रहा है, तो make it a public interest litigation, go to Supreme Court. And when Supreme Court does not rule in your favor, start blaming Supreme Court. That's the toolkit. That's the toolkit on how you do PILs today. Okay. So going further on the issue of what is the role of judiciary? The role of judiciary, higher judiciary is Supreme Court, High Court. The role of higher judiciary is to adjudicate on three types of cases. One is constitutional cases. Second is appellate cases. And third is original jurisdiction, which is disputes between center and state. वो जो रोना धोना होता है कि हमको जीएसटी का पेमेंट नहीं मिला है, ये है वो है, सब जो रोना होता है ये वो सेंट्रल के सुप्रीम कोर्ट के ओरिजिनल जुरिस्डिक्शन में आता है ना. एवरीथिंग सेड एंड डन, दिस इज डिवीजन ऑफ पावर. अभी मैं कंप्लीट कर रहा हूँ. वी हैव 20-25 मिनट्स लेफ्ट इन टुडेज लाइव सेशन. सो डिवीजन ऑफ पावर खत्म करके नाउ आई विल गो टू गवर्नेंस. This is majorly division of power and structure of the government. I think I have covered a lot of, area when it comes to explaining how Indian polity functions and everything like that. If you want me to explain on anything else, fundamental rights hai, directive principles of state policy hai, now I will be taking on any kind of questions which have been asked. I think a lot of questions have been asked previously. Unfortunately, I have not been able to gauge those. ठीक है, तो I'll just answer some of the question. Hi, good evening everyone. Hitesh Kumar Sharma, advocate. Hi, advocate साहब. Okay, sir, what is better, Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha as in for participating in parliament? I mean, first of all, I congratulate PCDT NYP that they have given very good committee, and they have not been that MUN which becomes trendy होने के लिए कुछ भी कमिटी ला देते हैं. तो I congratulate PCDT to maintain the standards कि YP has to have Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha. YP cannot function without Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. So Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, one, that's a good thing. So any house, whatever agenda is your favorite, you can go to that. Whatever good profile you are aspiring, if you get that profile in that particular house, you can go there. Okay, profile is portfolio. And third is, कोई अगर जज बहुत ही पसंद हो तुम्हारे, मतलब कि ये जज अच्छा करता है, नहीं अच्छा करता तो मत जाओ, अच्छा करता है तो जाओ. ठीक है, मतलब सेल्फ पब्लिसिटी नहीं करूंगा, बट लास्ट टाइम्स महाराष्ट्र विधानसभा वाज लिट. मतलब मैं ही बहुत एंजॉय किया हूँ. तो अगर महाराष्ट्र विधानसभा में आने के लिए थोड़ा तो मराठी समझना पड़ेगा. ठीक है, आई एम नॉट अ पार्टी मेंबर ऑफ महाराष्ट्र नवनिर्माण सेना, बट आई एम जस्ट सेइंग कि इनकन्वीनियंस होता है महाराष्ट्र विधानसभा में, क्योंकि सब मराठी में बोलते हैं. तो ठीक है, तो आई डोंट थिंक सो देयर इज एनी डिस्टिंक्शन. एजेंडा देखो, पोर्टफोलियो रिमेनिंग कौन सा है देखो, एंड ईबी देखो, दैट डू यू एंजॉय डूइंग डेलीगेटिंग अंडर दैट ईबी, एंड देयर इज नथिंग रॉन्ग इन चूजिंग योर ईबीज. ठीक है, सब लोग नहीं अच्छे होते, सब लोग उतने अच्छे नहीं होते, कुछ लोग. बट इन पीसीजीटी आई हैव सीन ईबी क्वालिटी हैज नॉट बीन कॉम्प्रोमाइज, प्रेजेंट पार्टी इंक्लूडेड, टू इवन अ बिट. सो आई थिंक एवरी ईबी वेरी मॉडेस्टली, मैं वैसा, मेरे को किसी ने स्क्रिप्ट नहीं दिया है. ठीक है, आई डोंट हैव अ पीसीजीटी टूल किट. सो आई एम बीइंग वेरी ऑनेस्ट कि पीसीजीटी के जो जज होते हैं, मॉडरेटर्स होते हैं, बहुत ही अच्छे होते हैं. इस बार की क्वालिटी भी बहुत अच्छी है. What is the reason behind leaving Lok Sabha power? Democracy. Because people who elect their representatives directly, those representatives should have more power than people who come from via करके कि इधर लोकसभा में हार गए इलेक्शंस तो राज्यसभा से प्रमोट कर दे. So that's why the representatives who are nearest with respect to connection to people should have more power. That was the reason. ठीक है. Now, sir, do you think participating in youth parliament gives us more clarity about the working of parliament? Definitely. Youth parliament is a 2-day, 3-day affair, right? But nominal proceedings क्या होती है? And when you see very hilarious remarks in social media discourse कि these bills were not discussed in the parliament. तो वो डिस्कशन मतलब क्या होता है, क्या डिस्कस करना मतलब क्या, डिस्कस कैसे करना होता है. You only see some MP's speech from West Bengal who has been a, you know, you go queen title wali, hashtag you go queen from West Bengal. I think TMC के MP है वो. But a lot of their speeches part is omitted from the record because it does not have fact. It is unparliamentary. So there are very, very narrow rules and regulations with respect to how you can debate about a law, how committees are formed. So yes, youth parliament is one of the primary sources to learn about how Parliament of India functions, and that is a great learning experience as well. ऑप्स और वाह ठीक है, मतलब व्हाट एन एग्जांपल इन इंग्लिश, ओके. निशाद is asking about Nisha is asking about, sir, can you explain more about JPC? JPC, so committees in Parliament are not mentioned in the Constitution of India. So people who claim, again, people who claim that to keep the democracy of India alive and to keep the Constitution of India alive, form an organization which is not mentioned in the Constitution. So that is the irony of the situation कि जो JPC demand करते हैं, please ask them whether to save is our constitution that weak that whether to save the constitution you have to take help of an organization or a committee which is originally not part of the constitution. So ये हो गया मेरा ओपिनियन. JPC पर मैं इंफॉर्मेशन दूं. JPC Joint Parliamentary Committees is a committee formed by the members of both the houses. Okay, there is two kinds of thing. Okay, joint parliamentary session अलग होता है और joint parliamentary committee अलग होती है. तो JPC is a minuscule committee of 25-30 members who discuss a particular issue. Joint parliamentary session is when there is a deadlock between two houses, which is very rare. Then a joint session is called Lok Sabha Speaker presides over that session. So that's JPC. How important are standing committees? Very important. Standing committees in Indian parliamentary systems are very important. However, not a prerequisite of a law being constitutional or unconstitutional or due process followed or not. It's a discretionary power to the speaker and the leader of the house and leader of the opposition. Only because committee was not formed, the law is unconstitutional is the most hilarious conclusion anyone who knows Indian politics can reach. Okay, so standing committees are important because हमारे MPs को वेकेशंस बहुत लगते हैं, तो वेकेशंस ले लेके पार्लियामेंट चलता है, तो कंटिन्यूस पार्लियामेंट नहीं चलता. तो जब नहीं चलता तब क्या होता है, द लॉज विच आर बीइंग डिस्कस्ड इन द पार्लियामेंट आर डिसाइडेड बाय मिनिस्क्यूल मेंबर्स ऑफ यू, बिकॉज 550 मेंबर्स डिस्कसिंग वन लॉ विल टेक 3 years फॉर द लॉ टू बी पास्ड, और तब तक वो लॉ रिडंडेंट भी हो जाएगा. ठीक है, तो फॉर अ लॉ टू बी पास्ड इन 1 or 2 sessions, which is 6 months, you have to still be thorough with the law. You can't be lethargic with the law. So what you do is you form you delegate the powers of discussing that bill clause by clause, एकदम thoroughly experts को बुला के उनसे वो डिस्कस करवाते हो, and then that committee gives a report to the whole house. The house does not discuss the law, then house discusses the report. The report is not binding on the parliament, even if the executive rejects the report in its entirety without taking any amendments and goes forward. It's not unconstitutional. Unconstitutional का क्या हो गया पता है? वो in Marathi there is a story called लांडगा आला रे आला. That when you repeat the same thing or same allegations again and again, that allegation becomes useless. So to call anything fascist and to call anything undemocratic has become a trend and is losing its value. So please use the words unconstitutional, undemocratic and fascist in a very strong sense when only you have proofs and very strong urge that something is going on is inhuman and illogical. ठीक है? Just my opinion. ये मेरा ऑर्बिटरी का बहुत हो रहा है आजकल, बट ठीक है. महाराष्ट्र लेजिस्लेटिव असेंबली के बारे में कुछ ठीक है. सो आई थिंक मिथिल यू आर पार्ट ऑफ MLA लास्ट ईयर. आई डोंट रिमेंबर. आई थिंक यू आर पार्ट ऑफ MLA लास्ट ईयर, तो यू नो वेरी फेयरली. महाराष्ट्र विधानसभा हैज अ डिफरेंट सेट ऑफ प्रोसीजर. आई थिंक उस पर एक सेशन होगा हमारा. इधर मैं वो एक्सप्लेन करके उसमें सबका टाइम नहीं वेस्ट होगा, बिकॉज पीपल विल बी इंटरेस्टेड इन व्हाट आई स्पीक ऑन लोकसभा राज्यसभा एज वेल. सो एनी क्वेश्चंस ऑन व्हाट आई स्पोक टिल नाउ, I will take for 5 minutes आगे, and or else we'll close today's session. ठीक है. कोई भी questions हो तो please ask freely. just the hands up. I think people who have joined today definitely know this. I mean, completely, that I have a YouTube channel called Bharat Bhagya Vidhata. PCGT has frequent collaborations with Bharat Bhagya Vidhata, so you can trust an organization which PCGT trusts. तो प्लीज फॉलो, सब्सक्राइब, लाइक, सेव सब जो होता है ना वो क्या उसको क्विंटासेंशियल यूट्यूबर होता है वैसा मैं कुछ बोलूंगा नहीं कि हाय गाइस वेलकम बैक टू माय चैनल. तो वी डोंट डू दैट हियर. सर, इफ Shashi Tharoor, head of the IT standing committee and subsequently was not included in the JPC, is that not arbitrary? I don't think so. I do not think that the requirement of I mean, Shashi Tharoor is not an expert in information and technology. That's my personal opinion. Second is, joint parliamentary committee has to be given preference to the people who are stakeholders. Okay, so I don't think so Shashi Tharoor is anyway an exclusive stakeholder. Shashi Tharoor, by the way of his appointment, does not enjoy any kind of exclusivity. So I don't think so arbitrary appointment. And what does the government has to lose? Anyway, if he was a problem or an obstacle, he wouldn't be even appointed on the standing committee. So I don't know what kind of obstacle the government is thinking when they are not appointing Shashi Tharoor. Maybe, and let's think in the democratic spectrum, people who are not part of the IT standing committee will get a chance to present their opinions to the JPC. What's anything wrong in that? Okay. Any more questions? अंडरस्टैंडिंग रीजनल पॉलिटिक्स, यार आई मीन अ डिफरेंट लाइव ऑन दैट, क्योंकि उसका कॉन्टेक्स्ट ही मतलब वो पूरा रास्ता ही अलग है. तो आज वो नहीं, बिकॉज वो चालू करूंगा तो और 30-35 मिनट हो जाएंगे उसमें. आई डोंट थिंक सो दैट्स द टॉपिक फॉर टुडे. रीजनल पॉलिटिक्स पे कहीं कभी बीबीवी पे रखेंगे लाइव, तभी आ जाओ सब. ठीक है. भारत भाग्य विधाता इज द चैनल्स नेम. सो इंस्टाग्राम पे भी हम हैं. वी आर ओनली प्रेजेंट, सो नो वरी ऑफ अस बीइंग नॉट बीइंग ट्रेस्ड. ठीक है. So I think there are no further questions. It was an honor to be a part. Okay, there is a question. Why are governors in some states more proactive than the others? Why are chief ministers in some states proactive than the others? I mean, it's an objective observation of... Proactive is a very subjective term for me. I mean, people who support a party will always say, oh, look at our proactive CM or proactive governor. So it's just that. I don't think so. I don't think, again, yeah, see, proactiveness kab dikhta hai? There is a different answer to this also. When the state government is not being an obstacle in governor's way. State government and the governor, both of them can be obstacle in each other's way. When the state government is an obstacle, governor is not proactive. When the governor is an obstacle, the state government is not proactive. Okay? Okay. Chetana is asking, is it necessary to actively participate in NYP? Chetana, I would recommend you to participate in NYP, not just as an observer. Practice it. Practice it a lot of time. Practice your speeches. There will be different training sessions for you. It will be a beautiful experience. I mean, it's just like swimming. वो जब तक आता नहीं तब तक थोड़ा सा वो फट्टी है. But once you start swimming, nothing like it. ठीक है. तो please participate very actively. I wouldn't recommend just watching it because it's boring. सिर्फ लोगों को सुनना. ठीक है. So people in India don't like to listen, right? Just listen. That's why so many people hate Man Ki Baat. Podcasts are not so famous in India. तो होता है. Anyway, I think with that, agar there are no questions, we'll proceed to close this session on a very, very, very good note. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed to explain the nuances of Indian polity and Indian governance, constitution, Indian law, Indian history as well. Thank you again, Shreya, Jatin and team to invite me. अभी तक मुझसे मेरे से बोर नहीं हुए ये लोग, तो I give it to myself as a consolation prize. कि अब तक किसी को मैंने बोर नहीं किया है. इनवाइट कर रहे हैं वापस year after year. So thank you so much and have a good night everyone. Please do participate in PCGT NYP and I will be part of Maharashtra Vidhan Sabha if anyone would like to participate. Thank you so much. Jai Hind, Jai Maharashtra.